Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome keynote speaker Dan French, founder and CEO of brownfieldlistings.com.
There you go. I know. Good job. You. Appreciate you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Pittsburgh. Let's see. The Renaissance has arrived in Pittsburgh. It's my tremendous honor and privilege to be here in front of such an esteemed group. I've sat where you sat. This is my 5th Brownfield conference. If it's your first conference, I envy you. My first experience was truly mind-blowing. Obviously, I keep coming back. So you won't find a kind of a bigger group of brains, talent, and capable people here. So I encourage you to really soak up as much as you can. Let that brain pop. Make some connections, because this is a truly collaborative environment. I mean, a lot of things that I learned just came in casual conversations and sidebars. There's so much substance. So have a terrific week. I want to hit just a few high points. So the ERF Marketplace, anyone who's in this room or attending this conference or your organization, you can post a site, you can post a project free. You can find this on the conference website right now. You can find it on our website. Make a connection. A couple events in the ERF, the featured events, is the Shark Bait and the Redevelopment Rodeo. They're happening tomorrow, and if you notice the times, you can hit them all. So you can see deals coming together in person, live, right in front of you at these 2 events. So check those out. Quickly about us, Brownfield Listings, in case you don't know, if you're here, you should sign up for our website. It's free. Our newsletter is free. You can post sites for free, you can post projects for free, and you can post basic profiles for free. So it's an open platform. We're all there doing this very important work. This is how our marketplace works. We have all these fun tags. The idea is you pick one of the big green ones, blue field, brown field, red field, green field, and then you can pick a lot or as many as you want of these the brown tags, which are fun things like public-private partnership, transit-oriented development. We're adding one, health fields, which I know some of the folks in the audience will really appreciate, because we're pushing out a new version after the conference. So stay tuned, because we're refreshing a lot of things about brownfieldlistings.com. And so we're a marketplace, as you just saw, but we're also a project platform, a collaborative platform. So you can pop up your own brownfield community. You can connect your team to substance online all the time. It's kind of an open data room. There's a lot of substance, and it's built attached to our marketplace, so things kind of can go back and forth. Who's on our website? Everyone. This is our stakeholder tree. If you look closely, you might be able to find yourself. Everybody's got a bubble, even VIPs, right? Sometimes Brad Pitt gets involved in a brownfield, cares about a particular community. But it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of professionals. There's a lot of credentialed people here. It's a space full of acronyms, and we're all represented today. But public, private, right? Federal government, local government, everybody gets involved. Who's that guy? That's my #1 stakeholder. His name's Declan. He'll be 2 pretty soon. Being a new father, I have a new kind of perspective, as you may imagine. And I've always been interested in current events, and I want to know what's going on. But now I'm particularly concerned about the future. And I'm thinking very much differently about it and the kind of world that I'm going to leave him. And there's so much noise today. We called it a renaissance, and I'll get back to that. But this is maybe the most hated recovery of all time. Stocks are at all-time highs, but it doesn't feel like that, does it? There's still a lot of doubt. If you ask people, consumer confidence is making new highs. Individually, we may feel good about our own situation, but if you ask folks, are we on the right track or the wrong track? Most people say we're on the wrong track. You know, we have tsunamis, earthquakes, hurricanes, lions, tigers, bears, hopefully not Russian bears. But it's all about building a better world for our future. My grandfather taught me that my job, I guess as a man, as a person, is to give your children a better chance than you got. Do better. One up. It took a lot for my parents, to stand up here on this stage, a lot of work. And A lot of you played a critical part in that. We're all in this together, and it's about Declan. It's about the future, and we can do that. Okay, now I'm actually moving into my remarks. You have my permission for the next 40 minutes or so to kind of suspend politics, to suspend the noise. Let's just pretend that we're on a starship looking at the planet from very far away. We're going to focus on the physical world. This is the Earth's eye, or the Odin eye, something that we use. Most of my remarks today aren't really about brownfieldlistings.com. They come out of, we have a very, very small boutique macro advisory service that we provide. And this has really cut out a lot of that. And we use these as prisms to view the world. It's pretty hard to spin, economics and hard data and energy. And we need all three of these things because we can't power our modern civilization without it. The 7.6 billion in the middle there is the number of people on the planet now. Did you know that we're closer to 8 billion than 7 now? We're on our way to 9, right? And we're going to need all these three things in harmony to work, or we're in for a very bad way. Okay. Conclusion. North America is winning the new normal. And everything old is new again. So history rhymes and it repeats. And you'll see what I mean. So let's start with my definition of sustainability. Today we're going to look at some longer charts than you're used to, bigger timelines. And we're going to think big. We're going to start with Mr. Malthus, right? The Malthusians. You may recall he noticed that population was growing much faster than agriculture in Europe, right? So he was one of the first to really talk about sustainability. But I do some rural economic development work, food shed development, right? Using your agricultural economy to grow. And sustainability is a dirty word in some parts of the country, like EPA. It's kind of a dirty word, depending on who you talk to. You got to be careful. So I like to talk about unsustainability, and that's really what we mean. I do some executive leadership trainings as well, and that's the endpoints, things blowing up, things becoming unsustainable is when you're really in trouble. You go bankrupt, your economy collapses, your country collapses, as we've seen throughout history. The Romans, the Babylonians. Unfortunately for Mr. Malthus, he made his prediction in 1798. There was about 1 billion people on the planet. His argument was that we were past the Earth's carrying capacity, but unfortunately for him, the Industrial Revolution happened, and we found oil, and he continues to be wrong. We've added many more billions after that, and you can find where we are on the chart. We keep freaking out. We always think the world is ending. Maybe it's just human nature. These are some popular culture. Not to date anyone, some of you first-generation brownfielders, you may recall Dr. Paul Ehrlich's book from the 1970s, The Population Bomb, right? Sure that the world was past its carrying capacity then, but it persists. Lester Brown continues to do great work, and he wrote a good book, Who Will Feed China? And Thomas Friedman talking about a hot, flat, and crowded planet, right? How can we sustain a modern civilization as we push to 9 and 10 billion people? Are we having a modern Malthusian moment? That was really the question in 2008 when the world was ending, right? Are we in decline? Has our best passed us? Is the dream dead? Is our future diminished? And that notion persists, though the economy has improved. So let's relive some of the recent unfortunateness, though it may be far removed. 2008, I was working at British Petroleum at the time. Oil prices were on their way to $150 a barrel, and that was driven by the peak oil panic. The idea was that we had found all the oil, we were in permanent decline, and energy was going to be forever expensive. After that, it was, in the data, peak discoveries happened in the 1960s when Guahar in Saudi Arabia came online, one of the biggest petroleum booms of all time. But in recent decades, when you hear about those super giant fields, they don't compare to Guahar and Cantarell in Mexico. So there was real reason for the concern, and this is one of my favorite charts for the worst reasons. This is U.S. oil production, and you can see from our peak in the early 1970s, we were in a slow, consistent, very sad decline. And this chart, for me, really sums up, the American underperformance that we had experienced during this time. It crept into our politics, right? In 2008, down there at the low, it was a major feature of the campaign, right? Drill, baby, drill. Manufacturing was fleeing, energy was getting more expensive. This chart shows you, sometimes it spikes, just something happens in the world, there's a war. But what happened, I want you to draw your attention to the 1,000% number, because from peak to trough, we had an increase from 1998 to 2008 of 1,000%. If you have a 1,000% increase in any commodity, it's a big deal for your business. If we have 1,000% in oil, which is the most important commodity, it powers everything, it's transit, it's pharmaceuticals, it's in the clothes you wear, it was a big, big problem. 1,000% in 10 years. Here it is in real terms, just so you can see that in real terms, it was worse than when my dad was waiting in gas lines in the 1970s, right? So it was a significant problem. Most of the conventional supplies that remained were in very hard to get places, very dangerous places like offshore. That's why BP was renting that rig from Transocean and having Halliburton drill. Venezuela, Iraq, it looked bad. Where are we going to get the oil? And so again, in popular culture, the National Geographic was covering it, everyone was covering it, and the popular conception was poor Uncle Sam, we're hooked on the junk. But it's not just about oil, or it wasn't just about oil, right? Oil is so important. In 2008, we also had food prices explode. We had food riots in 40 countries. 2 governments came down. The Arab Spring began when a fruit vendor lit himself ablaze in protest of high fruit prices and poor conditions, poor treatment by police. And we're still dealing with the legacy of the 2008 price shock today. This is a chart by Jeremy Grantham that shows the 33 most important commodities all indexed together. And you can see it's a nice decline. We like this kind of decline because it shows technological progress, right? Computers get a lot cheaper as time goes, things get cheaper, technology improves. But what happened in 2008 undid a century of progress, right? 1.2% deflation all that time, and then suddenly, whoosh, all at once. So this is the new Mad Max. Modern Malthusian moment. It wasn't just a real estate crash. It was an oil shock and a food shock. So we had a triple shock, and it hit all around the world, all at once. And the feeling is still with us, I think, a lot of people that I talk to. So are we there again? No, it was not the end of the world. We know that now. It's becoming more and more clear. This year, people are feeling a lot better more recently. But it was the end of the old normals. And I show you all this so we can start to see maybe what the new normal looks like. So let's get into some data. GDP, everybody hates GDP. It's like the one number that seems to matter for everything. Here it is in real terms. You see, we're not doing that bad. Per capita, per person, it's all-time highs. And I would just say that it doesn't measure everything, right? It was just a formula that we made up a long time ago. It doesn't even count home production, where a lot of the progress has been made, right? We didn't have personal computers at home, but now we do. So that's not even in GDP. The black market is bigger than ever. The sharing economy, right? And the gig economy. So I'm not sure if GDP is doing a very good job of tracking our economic progress and our activity. And I think we'll see some of that as we continue to go. But again, in per capita terms, it's never been better than this, ever. Initial jobless claims, 50-year lows. Job openings, all-time highs. There's never been more available jobs in this country today than right now. 6 million, more than 6 million. What about non-farm payrolls? There's more people working today than ever before. We're in all markets, and I can tell you the number one complaint that I hear is the availability of bodies. We need live bodies. We need people. They don't have them. We're running out of people. And we've created more jobs in this country since the recovery began, since the rest of the developed world combined. The rest of the developed world combined, that's the entire OECD. That's the EU. You can throw in Australia. You can throw in Argentina. You can throw in others. And we, in this country, they have more people, but we have created more jobs here. What about industrial production? Manufacturing, the jobs have left, but industrial production is, guess what? At all-time highs. And we bounced back pretty fast. And what about wages? Wages have been stubbornly low, but they're starting to tick up, as you can see. And again, all-time highs. And we keep getting better data about wages because as the labor Economy tightens, labor supply tightens, wages have nowhere to go but up. So we've been waiting for a long time. And then retail sales. Have you noticed a trend? All-time highs. We're selling more stuff than ever. People are buying more stuff than ever. The consumer is stronger than ever. We've had back-to-back record-breaking holiday shopping seasons, 5 in a row. In 2013, there were so many packages shipped, UPS and FedEx couldn't deliver them on time. Poor little Johnny didn't get his packages for Christmas. And it's only gotten worse. We just had the biggest Cyber Monday in history. And each Christmas, each holiday shopping season has been 4 or 5% bigger than the one before. Now, Christmas, it's always supposed to be bigger, but remember, GDP has been lagging. Well, where's the money coming from? If GDP is stuck at 2%, but holiday shopping is up by 5% every year, maybe GDP isn't doing a good job. So what's happening? We're number one again. How did we do this? Well, American exceptionalism and ingenuity. And I have, again, a little bit different definition of exceptionalism, America's exceptionalism, and you're going to see that. Here's our very, very sad chart again. But let's pick it up in 2008. Whoa! We doubled oil production under the Obama administration, just like that. If you voted on oil in the 2008 election, I'm very sorry to say it didn't matter, because we drilled anyway. And we drilled faster than anyone could have believed. In fact, the International Energy Agency last week just issued a report that our shale boom is the biggest in history. It's bigger than Saudi Arabia's boom in the 60s. It's brought on more capacity in a shorter period of time than history, any time in history. Here's the price. You can see it start to split, right? As production goes up, the price collapsed. We actually have created a good collapse. Oil prices have rebounded more recently, but prices collapsed for a good reason, because we had a production boom. And this is what it looks like from space. The before and after, that's the Bakken Formation in the Dakotas. That's lit up like a Christmas tree. And it came online when? Right in the teeth of the Great Recession. Right when we needed it the most, wouldn't you know, we had one of the biggest booms of all time taking off. Again, just to show you natural gas, even a bigger story. What happened? Those conventional supplies are true. The peak oil guys were right, but they forgot about the unconventional supplies, where we have trillions and trillions of barrels in the ground. And a lot of it is natural gas. And you can see natural gas prices trended together for a very, very long time. Japan actually had higher prices than us. We had a spike in 2004, but when the natural gas in the United States came online, you can see it split. And now we have the cheapest natural gas in the world by far, by multiples. Look at the price difference between the US at the bottom and Japan at the top. So we're building these huge, massive industrial facilities, a lot of them on the Gulf Coast. They're some of the largest industrial facilities ever built by man. Huge LNG compressed natural gas ships. They're fitting through the new Panamax Canal, which is a lot bigger, right? We're upgrading everything around the world, right? Everything's getting bigger. We need bigger ships to send that natural gas to Japan. And so now we will be one of the largest petroleum exporters in the world. I don't know if they'll talk about that in the next presidential election. Maybe it doesn't matter as much, but here we are suddenly. Now we're exporting product to Europe, mostly. Refineries in Europe are going out of business left and right, dozens. And that natural gas is going around the world as well. Who would have thought 8 years ago, right? We were talking about energy independence, and it was a dream. Oh, maybe we'll get there. And now we're talking about dominance, true dominance. Who is the largest natural gas exporter in the world? Russia. Think about that. But it's not just a petroleum story. Again, we're going to use the 3 E's, energy, economy, and the environment, to show you my exceptionalism. So we have sublime geography in the United States. Incredible advantage. This is really my only slide about demographics. I'll do it quickly because it's really important. Some people may say it's the most important thing you'll see today. One of these is not like the other, and it's the United States. I don't know if you know, but millennials are the biggest generation. And now there's more millennials in the workforce than any other generation. So the boomers are on their way out, and it's creating some fiscal dislocations in our government. But we have the boomers, or I'm sorry, we have the millennials, and they'll bail out the boomers. And we're the only ones in the world that really have the millennial generation. Everybody else has a bigger baby boomer problem than us, and it's coming due. Japan's a little bit ahead of us, and you can see how they've tried to handle it with quantitative easing and other things. Okay. But it's not just our demographic advantages. Geography, I love geography. It's our natural advantages. I'm from a small town in Illinois by the Great American Bottom, St. Louis. I love to hunt and fish. But it's important to note that we have more navigable mile of inland waterway than the rest of the world combined. 17,600 miles. China has 2,000. Germany too. In all of Middle East, from North Africa to Pakistan, there's 120 miles. And that's it. So when you're thinking about that fruit vendor in Tunisia, you're thinking about their agricultural economy, this chart says a lot. And we also have the largest ports in the world. Just the Chesapeake Bay has more natural port capacity than all of Asia. All of Asia, from Korea to Pakistan, just in the Chesapeake Bay. It's not just important because for fishing and floating, I like to float. Floaters know what I'm talking about. I have an extra one for my cooler. But it's important for costs, right? Because water is a miracle for conveyance. It's why all ancient civilizations rose up around water, because it's an order of magnitude cheaper. 12 to 1, just about. But that presumes that you already have all of your infrastructure built. If you don't have the roads and the rails and the depots and everything built, it's 50 to 1. That's the cost difference. So we have more than everybody else, and that's why for 400 years, America has been a capital creation machine, because we have the cheapest transport system in the world, by far. China is catching up. Our friends from China are here. Mr. Shanzi from the Provincial Land Engineering Construction Group. We're very happy to have you. You guys are very busy. You're catching up with us, right? They have a Marshall Plan. It's actually 11 times larger than the Marshall Plan. You may have heard about it. One belt, one road. They're going to connect 4 continents. Big deal. Scary, right? But they have a lot of work to do. They have to go an order of magnitude bigger just to try to catch up with our natural advantages. So it's a real tortoise and the hare situation, you guys. Geography is not destiny. We're not doing very good keeping up with what we have. We're still the cheapest, we're still the best, without even trying very hard. And I think we're all familiar with this chart. I'm a little cut off here in my formatting, but the infrastructure gap, according to the American Societies of Engineers, is $4.5 trillion today. So just maintenance, not looking forward, not what we might want to do for the future generations, just to catch up. We've got a $4.5 trillion hole. This is planetary land quality. We have more of the rich black stuff than anyone else in the world, right? The largest arable landmass, the highest quality soil in the world is here in the United States. Here it is again, and you can see that the largest arable landmass in the world is intersected by its largest inland waterway network. What a thing to have them layered on top. And so this is how Pittsburgh has been competing with the global economy for hundreds of years. You just stick it on a barge and float it out, right? And that's something that you can't do anywhere else in the world. What about solar? Well, we're the Saudi Arabia of solar, one of them. Obviously, the sun shines everywhere, but we have really, really good solar resources. And this is important because, as you may know, over the last 6-7 years, oil prices have collapsed by 80%. They're 80% lower than they were when President Obama was sworn in. This is a solar forecast, again, from the International Energy Agency, but put together by our friends at Bloomberg. And all it shows is that we keep getting our estimates wrong, but not like you would expect to the downside. We have to keep revising our solar forecast up because it's coming online faster than even the experts can predict. What about wind? Well, we're also the Saudi Arabia of wind, to keep using that phrase. We've got some of the best, most harvestable wind resources in the world, and you can see it here. Wind's getting bigger. If you've seen the new turbines, they're massive. They're also going offshore. And as we don't talk about wind as much, it doesn't make it into the news as much, but the price keeps getting lower and lower and lower. And so we're installing more and more and more. And when you know our friends at the IEA keep getting the wind forecast wrong, we keep installing more wind than we would have thought. That's the kind of forecast revisions I like. And down in Texas, they love wind. They love renewables in Texas. Good job, you guys. And one day last year, towards the end of 2016, they almost produced one windy day. They almost produced half of their electricity just with wind. Good job, Texas. So that's the future. And this is what really matters. This is one of my favorite charts. These numbers are a little dated, but they hold true. The proportions basically hold true. When you add up the fracking, the solar, the wind, and everything, it's driven our energy prices lower and lower and lower. And now we have some of the cheapest available electricity in the world. Our industrial rates are half the price of Europe, as you can see. And depending on where you are in Asia, it can be triple the price. So if you're a large power producer, if you're Alcoa, for example, 40% of your costs every month are electricity, this is the only chart that you care about. Where will you site your facility? In the EU? So we're building big again. The energy-intensive industry is coming back. This is Big River Steel in Arkansas, and when it flipped a switch on, it became the largest power consumer in the state. Just like that, boom. Okay, I have a lot of favorite charts, but maybe this is my favorite chart. We'll see. Talk to me after about what my real favorite is. But this is FTI. They do a study of CFOs around the world, decision makers. Where are you going to put your money? Where are you going to deploy your capital? These are the real decision makers. Some of them are in the room. And you'll see in 2013, the same year that Amazon Prime was busting UPS, we became the #1 destination for global capital again. Actually, for the first time. We overtook our friends in China, I'm very sorry to say. And then we kept it. In 2014, the #1 spot. Where do you want to put your money? Your billions. The United States. But wait. In 2015, we were #1. In 2016, we were #1. And we won this year. Hooray! Might not feel like it, but when you ask people who know, when you ask people who are deploying billions, the #1 site in the world right now is the United States to site your facility. And there's proof. So we also have record foreign direct investment happening in the United States. Remember in the 1992 election, Ross Perot talking about, I hear that sucking sound. Capital coming out of the United States. Well, if we listen, we can hear it again. Do you hear it? But it's coming the other way. It's coming to the United States. They're trying to get so much money we can't even fit it in the United States. Maybe it's coming in illegally. I don't know. Too much money entering. Can you believe that? Anyway, 2 Chinese facilities right here already built, billions, with more on the way. Another really good contestant for our favorite chart, but this is manufacturing. So in this last cycle, it began in the 1970s when we started to decline, we have had a number of recessions, and we shed jobs. But then the jobs come back. Except for manufacturing jobs. The red arrows are actually recoveries from recessions. When the economy is recovering, we've continued to lose manufacturing jobs, but not this time. Slow and steady at first, but consistently, and maybe more and more as we go, manufacturing is returning to the United States. Hundreds of thousands of jobs have already been reshored, with more on the way. So it's different this time. This is another sad chart, going back to wages. You can see the United States, we've had very stagnant, stubbornly low wages for decades, but we messed up just right. We've been waiting all this time, and just lying in wait, while the rest of the world's labor prices went up. Led by our friends again in China. You're doing too well. You're growing too fast. But now, when you enter this into the site selection criteria, and add energy prices and a lot of other things, the US comes out on top. And that's why were at the top of that FTI survey previously. Now our wages are rising, but we're starting from a very low base. So what are we building now? What's coming next? Well, lots of cool things. I'm going to talk about Tesla just as an example. This is their Gigafactory in Nevada, or a picture of it anyway. It's a drawing. It's the largest manufacturing facility in the world. There's another one, maybe two. One's coming to Buffalo, right, and some more. So it's not just those LNG export terminals that are bringing scale back like the early 1900s. It's the new stuff. This is the Model 3. This is why Elon started Tesla, not to build those $200,000 roadsters, but to build an affordable electric car. It's here. It has arrived this year. They will get more affordable, but I'm more excited about this, which is just out. You can't even buy one yet, although Walmart has put in a very large order for what Elon calls the Beast. It's an electric truck, and it's got an incredible range, 400 miles, and that's good to satisfy most trucking in this country. I wouldn't have believed that this was coming even just 5 years ago, but here it is, and it's not a model. That's a real picture. And I'm even more excited about these. These are industrial scale batteries. Again, this is something that, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we were just kind of waiting for some revolution in battery technology. It hasn't changed that much all this time, right? Been really 100 years. We're still using very similar battery technology, which is bad because they're not very good. I mean, they're certainly not good for large storage, large-scale storage like you need at a factory. But here these are. That's not just at some conference exhibit hall. These are in the field. This is in Hawaii. I don't know if we need to add a tag for, battery field. But here's solar with huge scale batteries, and this is how Elon is selling solar at night, right? We're producing too much electricity. In California this year, there's been several times when the power companies would pay people to take electricity, right? Energy goes to zero because they're producing too much, and you can't turn off those solar panels. So what do? Well, if we produce too much during the day, we should store it at night and then use it back. And if we use integrated systems, when the sun's not glowing, the wind's probably blowing, and we can still top up our batteries. And it's really all about batteries now, right? Solar's coming down, wind is coming down, but batteries are a big one because storage figures so prominently in so many businesses. And we've got another price war. Prices are in a state of collapse. Look at that again from our friends at Bloomberg. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and here it is. That progress that we want to see. What's it going to do? Well, it's going to power drones. The drones are coming, right? I don't know if they're going to start. I mean, these are in the field. They're making some deliveries. I don't expect to see one dropping off my soup at my apartment building anytime soon. But they're building kiosks, and they're talking about all kinds of interesting things. And of course, flying cars. These are all real. These are in the field. The billionaires have these wild projects just like the heyday of the industrial period, late 1800s, and they're doing all kinds of interesting things. One of the Google guys, that's his, the Kitty Hawk, it's flying. The Aeromobile, it's like $2 million. Are we working on some Jetsons possibilities, maybe? Sooner than you think? Could be. Who created the lithium-ion battery? Does anybody know? Now everybody knows. It's Johnny B. Goodenough there. His name is John B. Goodenough, which has got to be the best name of all time. He's still alive. He's 94 years old. He's at the University of Texas at Austin. And lithium is a big deal because it was that kind of one-step improvement that we needed for Elon to do his thing, right? Those industrial scale batteries. Lithium is good enough. The physics work. But he hasn't stopped working. And this year, he's come up with a solid-state battery that you can produce with silica, much, much, much cheaper to produce and environmentally much safer, that produces 3 times as much power and charges in minutes instead of hours. And that's it's not exactly what we need for the Iron Man suit, for example. We can't fly around with that. But going 3x from lithium is a really big jump. We already have those big rigs that we didn't think lithium was good enough for. Going from there to a solid-state battery is a big, big jump, maybe worthy of Jetsons. So I can't tell you how excited I am about this. Except, just to double the news up, last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, Fisker makes an electric car. They also make a great shovel. But they have filed their own patent for their own solid-state battery. So the battery war is about to intensify. And we're going to a new level, because it's way beyond what we have with lithium. So it's a new brownfield era. That's the acronym for the new Brownfields Reauthorization Bill. The Brownfields Enhancement, Economic Redevelopment, and Reauthorization Act of 2017, which does a lot of good things. So going forward, we're going to refit, retool, and rescale the entire economy. A lot of the technologies are changing, and there's new possibilities opening up. And so it's a lot of high-tech stuff, but it's also very, very low-tech stuff. I want to move into some of that now. This is the High Line in New York. I hope you've all been there. If you haven't and you go, you should check it out. Get up out of the street, get a face full of sun. It was just an old rail line for 100 years, sat around. I don't know if it's a brownfield or not, whatever you want to call it. Certainly a brownfield redevelopment, right? Repurposing something that's already there. It's been incredibly successful, maybe too successful. It's kicked off billions and billions of dollars in knock-on development. We did one in Chicago. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Ours is a lot longer, Bloomingdale Trail. There it is. We also finally got around to doing our river walk. It took us 150 years, but we're doing that in Chicago now. And it's pretty cool. Each one's a little bit different. It's segments, not really all connected. There's like a theater, and there's a place to get some food, and you can just sit. It's more than just recreation, though. It also attracted one of the new flagship retail Apple stores. There it is, right on the river. And we're really just catching up to Pittsburgh. You guys were leading, you're in the vanguard of your river redevelopment. I noticed that building looks familiar in the back there. Farmers markets, I'm from a farming community, so this unofficial economy, the low-tech stuff, again, farmers markets just keep coming on since the crash. They've really exploded, the unofficial economy, local food, barter. This is real economic activity, and these are things that people can do. This isn't high-tech. We know how to do these things. Vendors, line up, sell stuff. Time, date, show up, sell stuff. This guy loves it. Yes, please, buy my stuff. Walmart's getting in on the act, right? We're upgrading the built environment, right? We're lifting everything higher and better forms. So Walmart's putting in these new, smaller footprint neighborhood stores. Whole Foods just got bought by Amazon, 440 stores with a plan for 1,000 more. Disruption in grocery, and those stores are nice. This is from my neighborhood in Chicago, Cat and Mouse. They have games, puzzles, and events. Is it a retail apocalypse? Maybe. But bookstores and toy stores are actually growing at about 7%. So the small mom and pops are coming back, which is why they're being emulated by some of the bigger ones. But it's about games now, right? We're so technologically centered, just having Santa come gets people to come in the stores. This is simple stuff. We know how to do this. We've been doing this for thousands of years, but we've kind of gotten away from it. And so the children love this kind of stuff. Wow, I get to play with friends. How easy is that? And it really works. So Toys R Us, they went bankrupt. Unfortunately, you may have heard about this. But they're trying to catch up to the trend. Their plan to come out of bankruptcy, they were a big box leader. They were one of the first big box retailers. They invented big box retailing. And they're throwing out the old model. They're embracing augmented reality. Now you can go in and use your phone and see stuff. And then there'll be playrooms as well. Because it's not just about that raw commerce. One of the big trends is a shift to quality, right? And experience, the things that we can't get online. And Toys R Us is trying to step into the gap. This is Crayola Experience. Very, very cool. They've got the biggest crowns you've ever seen. And this one helped save a mall in Jacksonville, Florida. They needed a new anchor tenant, and malls are trying to figure out what will attract traffic, and Crayola Experience works, right? There's Toddler Zone. Mom and Dad get to chill out. I really, now that I'm a new father, I like to sit down. That's nice. And the kids get to run around. This guy loves it. And actually, the first one was on the other side of the state, because Crayola's factory, they started in Easton, Pennsylvania, and this was a brownfield development, essentially. This facility was built in one of their old factories, and the kids love it. It's built onto the plaza. But it's not just about the kids. Everyone is preferring these convenient, amenity-rich, high-quality environments, including the boomers. Boomers, it turns out, are some of our biggest, they're one of our fastest growing demographics for renting. They're selling their houses, and they're renting in these fun, high-quality places, just like the boomers. Everyone is preferring this hands-free living, these walkable communities. Like, why would I want to be stuck in traffic when I could be looking at my phone, right? And millennials aren't alone in this. Everyone wants to stare at their phone. Everyone wants to walk around and go to the shop around the corner, or go up to the rooftop and hang out on the sun deck. So we're doing some really, really cool things. Elevating the form and function of the built environment. This is the Atlanta Beltline. You may have seen this, I'm sure. It's in the process of being built. So pedestrians will be able to circumnavigate Atlanta. And it's too successful, to be frank. Gentrification is a huge problem. Everyone wants to live there. Now, you can look on the map and then where the Beltline will be expanded next, those neighborhoods, the developers are going in and bidding those communities up, and it's dislocating people. Hopefully we can find a solution for gentrification without displacement. But I suppose that's a good problem to have. Better to have growth and try to figure out how to deal with it than the alternative. And so Atlanta is figuring this out. The gentleman who started this project actually resigned over gentrification because they didn't feel that the project was coming together in the way that they had wanted. They didn't want to just build high-end condos. They wanted everyone to be included. And I'm sure as these things permeate throughout our society and every city starts to catch up in the amenity race, it will trickle out. And everyone, when this is complete, everyone in the city will be able to use it. So it's early. But as positive as I am, there's a lot of work to do. We have some problems. This is the Distressed Community Index, and all the growth, we're at new all-time highs, wages are picking up, and all these things, but 60% of the country is really lagging behind. 60% of the country has had zero net job growth since 2000, since the dot-com bubble. And so they're really lagging behind. The cities are on fire, and they've created 3/4 of all the new jobs over that time. And so we've got some issues with respect to that. And maybe the most disheartening thing is that people in these communities live on average 5 years fewer. They die 5 years sooner. And this is our cancer rates. Again, it's a geographic problem in many locations, like lead. Some of our mining communities have serious, serious problems, and they need assistance. There's no reason for this. We can do better. We have the technology. We're just not trying very hard. You saw the infrastructure report card earlier. This is another view of it. Our investments in infrastructure at generational lows. At this time of incredible transition, the world is starting to catch up. And what are we doing? Nothing. Well, I guess we're showing up. We're doing the minimum. But we could do better. Because it's not all sunshine and unicorns. We have real challenges, disparity, but also stronger storms. This has been a pretty interesting year, right? Big hurricanes. And it wasn't just this year for Houston. They've had 500-year floods 3 years in a row, right? What about next year? Are the floods coming back? Maybe. But we can do this. We have all the tools, all the technology that we need to rise to this moment. It's going to be a lot of the people in this room. So many different professionals, each of you in your field. 1776 is my favorite year, the Declaration of Independence, but also the Wealth of Nations. And in the Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith talks about specialization, right? One pen maker can make 1 pen a day. 20 pen makers can make 200 pens a day. And we've gone on in that time, and now we're all super, super specialists. And so we get bogged down. We're looking down at our very specialized field, and we don't come up sometimes for a breath of fresh air to look around, look at some longer charts. Where are we going? What does the future look like? So I hope I've done some of that today. Well, my challenge is to you, each of you, just to do your best. I'm giving you license to lean in. We have everything we need to compete and win. We can feed 8 billion people. We can feed 9 billion people. We can raise the quality of everyone's standard of living. We have enough stuff. We're not trying very hard, but we could. Imagine if we did. So, I hope we've cut through the noise a little bit, and you've gotten some context that you can take away and you can go back home. We may be due for a recession. If you are a subscriber to our newsletter, you know we do expect maybe some unevenness in the real estate market. We're maybe due for a correction. But I'm talking about a new long cycle. I'm talking about the structural nature of our economy has changed in fundamental and vitally important ways that we would have thought impossible 5 years ago, especially on batteries. So the future is very, very bright, but there's a lot of work to do. We have to rise to the occasion because the storms are coming. People are being displaced. People are dying for no reason other than there's not enough of us doing this good work. So, we can do it. We're doing it together. And I think if we lean in, if we do our best, I don't know what the next crisis will be, and I don't care. But if each one of you do the best you can on each of your projects, in your silo, in your specialization, I'm confident that together we'll be ready for the next one. Right? If we make the most of this moment, then we can do what we're supposed to do on this planet, which is leave a better world for our children. But there's a lot of work to do. So we better get started. You're going to leave from here and actually get started, right? And I look forward to everyone's presentations and an incredible week. But we better go, right? It's time. I don't want you to think that it's just going to happen, right? The tortoise won that race. The hare did not win. Maybe America is the hare, but we can't nap. We've been sleeping too long. There's a lot of work to do. We got to get started. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at the Brownfields 2017 opening plenary session. We invite you to the coffee with the exhibitors, and you can enter the exhibit hall directly through the open doors in the back of this room.